Hey, Healing Overflow family. I almost got tongue-tied on that. Healing Overflow family. There you go. How are y'all? I'm Dr. Toy. Welcome back. Thank y'all for coming back. Thank you for your comments. Y'all been sharing with me. I've been hearing from a lot of you that these Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy, they have been helping you and they've been helping others. That's exactly what it's for. When you heal, it overflows onto everybody else. Let's heal, baby. Let's heal. I'm enjoying it. I'm having such a great time. And thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Again, like my Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy Facebook page, so you'll be notified of when we go live, and you can watch all the other videos that I've recorded with my guests and my solo videos. So click on that. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share to others. Also, email me at drtoyjones@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, and also like our Facebook page, WXCN Power Radio, like our WXCN Power. I got to say it like that, Power Radio, because that's what it sounds like on the radio. If you have some content that you want me to share, or you want me to talk to guests about a specific subject that you're dealing with, please email me. Please inbox. I get a lot of inboxes. Let me know, and we'll be sure to get it on for you. So today, y'all, I got a guest that I am just so honored that she could come and talk to us, because it just blows me away. Her book blows me away. When I speak to her, I'm blown away. And you're going to get the same response once you hear her. Her name is Andrea Flack-Wetherald. And she is an improviser. What's that, Dr. Toy? You're going to hear all about it. She's the owner of a small business and beyond. She's a speaker. She's a dynamic speaker. She serves clients across the nation through her 5-week leadership program. And her book, the #1 seller in leadership training, is being taught around the continent, in 5 different continents, y'all. The name of her book is The Funny Thing About Forgiveness: What Every Leader Needs to Know About Improv Culture in the World's Least Favorite F Word. Okay, it's available on Amazon now. Let me show you. Wait, where's my book? Where's my book, y'all? Got it. Okay, got it, read it, enjoyed it. Listen, and I will put also the link where you can get more information. I am not going to belabor this, not another moment. I need to bring Andrea in so she can drop this knowledge, but we can just heal through forgiveness and really learn what forgiveness is. Oh, the F word, I forgot. All right, put your virtual hands together for my guest, Andrea.
Thank you. Oh, stop, guys, stop. It's too much.
Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you come on and just really just talk about the F word. It's uncomfortable. I didn't even want. I'm like, maybe we don't need to talk about forgiveness. I don't want to talk about this.
Let's just not. Let's just talk about margaritas and mojitos. I just got back from vacation in Mexico, and so we could do the 30 minutes on that together
and still be bound and stuck in unforgiveness.
Right.
No, I honestly think that we are on the right track. I just want to dig into it, even though that other content is the nice topics. We got to dig into this forgiveness. I mean, and I'm going to refer to your book quite a lot, but I also, just want you to talk about forgiveness. You mentioned that forgiveness, and this is what you said in your book, forgiveness gets a bad rap. And when I read that, and you called it the F word, and I said, well, it should, because I don't really like him or her. Yeah. We want to personify forgiveness. And I could understand why you called it the F word. But why do you say it gets a bad rap? Because I believe it gets the rap it deserves. So what do you think on that?
Sure. So, in all seriousness, we are living at a time where we are ready to talk about accountability as a society, and we should, because accountability is important. And we absolutely need to learn how to grow and how to do better as a society and as individual people. Mm-hmm. And so the reason why forgiveness gets a bad rap is that what we haven't learned is how to hold accountability and forgiveness together. We haven't learned how to imagine a world where forgiving someone is not the same as absolution, where it's not the same as letting them off the hook, and it's not the same as losing your agency in the situation. That's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. And so one of the things that I try to do right in the introduction, right from the top, is explain that that is not what I'm interested in doing. I am not interested in, for myself or for anyone else, cultivating this understanding of forgiveness where, first of all, anyone gets to tell anyone else when it's time, but secondly, forgiveness is not, getting to this place where you can feel totally zen and totally at peace with the worst trauma, the worst things that have ever happened to you. It's not where you just feel fine with injustice. That's not what forgiveness is. It's not about looking back at the worst things and being fine with it. What I teach in this book is that forgiveness is about looking forward and knowing yes, and that mindful improv component. Yes, these things have happened, and beautiful, amazing things are possible in the future. So really, forgiveness is about taking the driver's seat in your life and in your story, and understanding that, you are capable and worthy of beautiful and amazing things. And when it comes to these larger societal issues, forgiveness is about understanding that we can invite one another to growth. We can invite one another to that table of learning. But the only way to do that and actually create a situation where someone is able to really learn and do better is when we step into that conversation from a place of forgiveness first, which is something that I elaborate more on in the book, and we can talk more about that if you want. But the idea is just that in my heart of hearts, what I want to be about on this earth, as far as we know, we get one shot to do this thing. And while I'm on this planet, what I want to be about is healing, promoting real healing, and not just informing someone, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're not doing it right. I've been that person. I didn't come from a place, and I don't mean to, shift the blame anywhere else, but I came from this understanding that we fixed racism. Thank you, Dr. King. Look, we elected Barack Obama. It's solved.
And Oprah, she's doing good. Yeah. So it's okay for Black folk.
Right.
Boo.
And so, I came from this understanding that, once we stopped segregating schools in the official sense, that now it's solved.
Right.
And I had a lot of learning to do. I had a lot of learning to do so that, but this is the critical piece, so that the love that was in my heart could be manifest in my behavior, and in the way that I advocated for change in the world, because it wasn't the case, sincerely, that I was like, I don't care. And I'm, it wasn't like that I intended to be hurtful. Right. But what I came to understand is that the impact of your behavior matters more than your intentions, And so as I went to college and traveled and learned, what became clear to me was that I needed to be more committed to the story of love than the story of, it's not my fault, I'm not, whatever. So I feel like I could talk about that for forever, but the whole point, the whole point for me is how could I ever come at someone with a pointed finger when I too have had growing to do? I too have had learning to do. And I know that I was able to do that work through real human conversations where the environment was safe enough for me to learn in front of someone. It's vulnerable to learn in front of someone, And so what I just aim to do in this book is to set human beings up. It's written from a perspective of leadership, because I believe leaders have the opportunity and responsibility to learn how to cultivate this type of environment. And what better environment than the workplace? We're there a lot. And, if we can make workplaces an environment where folks are learning how to approach with curiosity, how to balance that humility and courage, to have brave conversations, not only is that going to change the work environment so people are working so much better together, those are the fundamental building blocks of peace building. This is how we take that to our families and our communities.
Yeah. And you must have read my mind, because there are issues on the job. I mean, everyone has issues on the job where I no longer trust you. I'm not forgiving you for what you said and you did in that meeting. I'm not forgiving you for that project that you botched up or you took from me or my idea. And that forgiveness is it's not just, for the office or for leadership. And I love the perspective. Like I love how you described it just now. Like where did that come from to really work on the leadership? But the message you send, it's not just for leadership and corporations and things like that. This is a lesson that can permeate throughout my whole entire life, that if I'm forgiving, now I sit in a seat of learning, and then I am then growing myself from the inside out to be able to have these better, more improved interpersonal relationships with my family, my loved ones, etc. But you know what? I'm really thinking on the sense of, that's not how I was ever taught about forgiveness. I was taught somebody do something real jacked up to you, and then you're really upset and angry, but you can't stay in that upset and angriness. Then you have to forgive them quickly because God forgave you, so you got to forgive them so that you can be forgiven.
Right.
Okay. That's this whole
script. It's your moral obligation.
It's your moral obligation. And if you don't, it's on you.
Yeah, you're not a good person.
Not a good person.
That's another, I'm really glad that you brought this up, because that's another just belief around forgiveness that I hope to dismantle in this book. Because forgiveness has nothing to do with whether or not you're a good person. There are plenty of people who have internalized the narrative about forgiveness that then creates a situation where they just feel like a doormat. They are unhappy. They are miserable. They feel no sense of ability to speak up for what they need, to share their boundaries, their needs, because they have internalized this narrative around forgiveness that what it is just kind of letting people off the hook, don't make any waves. And then they're miserable. And there's another, reality here where forgiveness can sometimes be treated like the F word. Like I use the example in the book of, kind of growing up with sisters. I come from a family of 3 girls, and we're just constantly fighting about whatever. And so forgiveness was sort of like this brokered hostage negotiation where it's like, you give each other back your Barbies, and it's like one person says, I'm sorry, and the other person snarls, I forgive you, clenched teeth. And so there's this sense of like, if that's what we allow forgiveness to continue to be in our story, we are going to be unhappy people who like whatever. So for me, the whole thing is that forgiveness is not about if you're a good or bad person. There are good people in the world carrying a lot of resentments, and they are doing their best to spread goodness, to cultivate social justice, but in their place of unforgivingness, they are living in turmoil. And they are so pessimistic that there is no joy in their journey of building something good in the world. So forgiveness is not about if you're good or bad. It's about if you're free or not free. It's about if you are cultivating social justice, cultivating joy, cultivating beauty, cultivating hope in the world from a place of joy. And, here is where I just love the use of mindful improv as a mechanism for teaching some of these logistics for forgiveness. So is it okay if I just back us up for a second to talk about what improv even is?
Oh, so I want you totally to get to that, but there's something that you said that I want to dig on first.
Great. Let's do it.
And I want you to bring in the improv, because it is such a unique approach to forgiveness that if you don't mind doing something for us, for the audience at the end, and explaining how you got into even incorporating improv with forgiveness, and just give us something that we can actually use, that would be wonderful. I know the audience will love that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. I want to go back to that, because when I read that part with the sisters and Barbie doll, I have a sister, and I remember that whole sorry, I love you hugs, and I laughed my head off because I wanted to like push her down after that whole exchange. Why? Because she didn't deserve forgiveness,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
She wronged me.
Mhm.
And that really continues on through a lot
Mhm.
of folks' life, including me. I can't even say it's not me. And I never thought I was a vindictive person. Vengeance is God's, and I'm always leaving in the hands. But when somebody wrongs me or my loved ones, I want them to pay. I don't want them to
Mm.
get off the hook. Now, will I seek revenge? No, but I think that they should not be let off the hook. They should not be relinquished of any responsibility for doing this wrong thing to me or someone else. And they should feel discomfort and pain because they're the ones that are wrong.
Mm.
And I never ever thought I was like that. And then I started really digging deep, even in preparation for this. And I thought, oh, if someone does something wrong, I'm not forgiving you for killing my loved one. I'm not
Mm.
forgiving you for sexually assaulting me. I'm not forgiving you for cheating on me multiple times over and over again. I'm not forgiving you for treating me like a piece of crap. What are you
Sure.
talking about? This is not normal. It's not human. And I'm not forgiving you because you don't deserve that. You're the evil one. You're the one that
Mhm.
did it wrong. What do we say to that? What do
2
we say to
things.
that?
There's 2 things. So, firstly, when in that situation, any of the examples that you gave, I myself am a victim of sexual assault, so I'll stand from a place of my story and my perspective. And I share in the book that I was sexually assaulted as a child, by someone who was actually a teenager in my dad's youth group. My dad worked at this church,
Oh,
and then I was raised in that church where this happened to me. And that is not to say my parents did not approach from a place of inaction. That man went to jail.
mm,
Um, and I was not his only victim. But I was still raised in this church, Toya, that's preaching purity culture. In this culture that I come from, a woman's purity is like the most valuable. I mean, we had the whole like purity ring ceremony where at 16 girls get a
mhm,
ring that's blessed,
mhm.
in the church, which already is making a ton of assumptions about things at the age of 16. For me, that was not a problem because I was like Mrs. Goody Two Shoes. Like, anyhow, but to be steeped in that purity culture the whole time, carrying this weight that's like I am memorizing these scriptures in the same place where my purity was stolen from me.
Wow.
And like just
Woo!
how first of all, like damaging that was for me, but then also just the experience of feeling like, even though my parents never said this to me, to be clear, but the message that I internalized was like my pain sitting here in this room, my pain being raised in this building, my nightmares that I have about coming into this building are not as important as the fact that this is where we go to church. This
Yeah.
is where everybody that we know goes to church. This
Wow.
is where we're staying. So the message that was never intentionally given to me, but that I no less received was your needs are not important. It's going to create a whole bunch of waves. If you like, what would you have us do? Start over new somewhere? Like for me, it was like, just shh, move on. We've all moved on. He went to jail. It's okay now.
Wow.
So one story that people tell themselves is that I can't forgive until there's justice.
Mm-hmm.
But I have walked the journey of justice happening. But when you stand in a place of unforgiveness, you're drinking the poison, And so, for example, for me, and this is like the first piece that I wanted to address here, forgiveness is not about, I'm fine with it now. The way that I teach forgiveness in the book is that instead of in these moments, me replaying the situation over and over in my sleep, waking up, hammering half a bag of Thin Mints, hashing it out, in the middle of the night, can't go to sleep. What should I have done differently? What would I do if it was my daughter in that situation?
Right.
Like, instead of that, to stop and be like, ooh, this has its hooks dug into me still. Otherwise, I wouldn't be up at night thinking about it. There's no reason that I would be up thinking about it unless I still in some way believed that my freedom, growth, or joy is now dysfunct because of it. There is a limiting belief that I am holding on to. What is it? Let me go on a curiosity Easter egg hunt. What is it that I believe is true that is causing me pain now? Does it
Wow.
make sense what I'm saying to you? So when I switched in my brain and stopped rehashing the situation, stopped trying to ask myself, why did that happen? Stopped trying to hang myself on the cross of compassion for this man. What must have happened to him in his life? Trying to force myself to feel some way toward him. And instead, change the question to, what must I believe is true that I don't like, that I continue to feel this way in the middle of the night about it? And what I realized is that I come from a culture that also says all these things about, like, well, people who, get molested or sexually assaulted when they're children, they often grow up and do that to other people. So
Yeah.
my fear was, what if I was so afraid to become a mother. I was so afraid
Right.
when my children came. The experience of changing diapers was like horrifying for me. I was so afraid of, like, I don't want to go too deep to a place that makes any of your viewers uncomfortable, but just for me, it was like, I just carried this weight of, like, fear that I would not be a good mother, And then the other thing too was, like, this limiting belief of you can't trust men. And that is celebrated in our culture.
Yes.
That, like, men are the worst. Can't trust a man, especially can't trust a white man. Let's flush them all down the toilet. It's just like that perspective is just celebrated in our culture.
Yes.
And so it's easy to get kind of caught up in, what can I feel justified in holding on to? And this is the piece where I just want to kind of go next, is that a way that we limit ourselves so much is holding on to grudges that we know there is not a person who can ever tell me to get over it. There's not a person who can ever stand in integrity and tell me to move on. Because if I wanted to, I could go through my whole life hating that man. And there is not a person who would tell me otherwise.
Right. They would say you're justified.
Oh, totally.
Yes.
Totally. But I don't want the limiting belief and the fear and the distrust of my own spouse, the fear of true intimacy. I don't want that. I don't want a life that I can achieve when I set the bar at, what am I justified in carrying?
Yes.
What resentments and grudges am I allowed to hold on to forever? I want wonderful. I want closeness. I want trust of myself. I want to know what it is to trust myself, and to trust my integrity.
It sounds like freedom, Andrea.
Yes. Toya, I led a weekend-long retreat with a trauma therapist called Freedom Through Forgiveness. So I lied to you just now. It was called Freedom Weekend.
What?
And the sections was called Freedom Through Forgiveness.
I got like tangos.
Yes. I mean, it is.
It just sounds like freedom for yourself. It's not about the other person. Forgiveness is about your healing, your freedom to live life without this constant, I don't forgive this person script running everything that you do, everything you think, and how you feel. That's it. Like, boom, a light bulb just went off.
And the other thing with forgiveness too is that, because I am not the only person who has a story like that. I'm not the only person who has a justified thing. Probably every person that is going to watch this has something in their life that they can point to that is their Everest of forgiveness, or several, but the reality is that there are little things too. Forgiveness isn't just about the big traumas, there are little things too. And I share a story in the book about talking with a woman in my professional work, who is a professor, and she's working on starting a business. And we thought, when she was talking about, like, oh, this forgiveness stuff, this is not what I need. She said to me, that's not what I need. Because I've done therapy for a long time. And so she felt like her wonky feeling of, like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, her lack of confidence, she thought that, this must be coming from this very abusive relationship that she had been in for years. And she ended up leaving him with her baby and starting this new life. But certainly there was hardship there, and so she felt like that the source of her of her feelings of inadequacy and things was about that, because that was her big thing, her number one big thing. And so we tend to think all bad things are pointing at that. When there's something you really feel insecure about, you see it everywhere. You're
Right.
sure that that's what somebody meant by something, like you're really sure that that's what it's about. But when we really got into it and started doing this, I call it the proactive forgiveness process, what we realized was that there had been this comment someone made to her in a meeting. Some hotshot new guy who was like a third her age at this company said something, and he was rude. It's not about like deciding to let someone off the hook. Like we said, it was rude what he said. But she for years had been hanging on to this, like it hit her in this other sensitive spot of like her age, like, is it too late for me to be holding this goal? So we could get all into it. But my point for bringing this up is that, and I try to do a good job of really developing this idea in the book, that the little things are really important too. There is a cauldron of powerful moments of realization when you get into, when you treat forgiveness the other way. I explained the path of there's a big thing and I keep coming back to it in the night. And how can I, choose curiosity instead about where are my limiting beliefs? But you can go the other way with forgiveness and find some really powerful moments of realization for yourself. If you start with a limiting belief instead of a traumatic experience, if you start with like, I don't believe I'm the kind of person who can be successful, or I don't believe, or maybe it's like, I believe that wealthy people are selfish, or whatever it is, some limiting belief that is keeping you stuck in all you're guaranteed in life is death and taxes type of a mindset. If you start with those limiting beliefs and then reverse engineer backwards, like, where's that coming from?
Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
That's a good start. Forgiveness is a journey.
Yes.
It's not, I'm just going to discover what that limited belief is right now, and I'm going to feel so much better. You have a quote in the book that I want you to talk about before we get into, and then I want to dig all into this improv, baby, because it's so interesting to me, and the viewers need to see this. But one thing that you said is discovering that. So this is some internal work. This is some introspection. So I'm doing my work, not this person that's running around doing whatever they're doing. And why are they so happy after they just really dogged me and hurt me out? And they're over there smiling and stuff. And I'm over here bleeding inside. It's about that internal work. It's about the process. We're in I call it a Tylenol ice pack type of society where it's like, well, I have this pain. Well, go get some Tylenol, get an ice pack and hurry up and get the pain away. Well, sometimes we got to marinate in it in order to discover what's driving this whole thought pattern. Why am I so bruised by this? What am I thinking? What thoughts do I need to discover? And it sounds so much like CBT when I was reading it. And I know you're a social worker. I know your background. So it was like, this is really getting into some work on my own. What you said, I'm going to put it up on the screen. Forgiveness is when my hurt is no longer writing my story. I went, the viewers know I always say, folks, drop the gold nuggets, get your shovels and buckets and clean it up. There was gold nuggets all over the floor when I read that. I said, what does she mean? I can't wait to ask her. What were you saying with this quote here?
Yeah. So for me, when we are operating our lives from a place of unforgiveness, and we continue to look backwards through a lens of either victimhood or resentment or suspicion or whatever, the same lens that you're using to review your story is the same lens that you're using to write the next chapters. You can't have it both ways. You can't hang on to that suspicion and resentment or shame or whatever, and then imagine a world where you're also writing something next that honors your dreams, your goals, your highest aspirations. That's not what's happening. You're continuing to write from a place of suspicion, resentment, and shame. And so what that means is that every new opportunity that comes your way gets run through a lens of, if it's possible for someone like me, before it ever gets run through that lens of, would this honor me? Would this honor my goals? Is that good? When you're operating with suspicion and resentment, it gets run through like, but this is the kind of person who, whatever, you know, so we're, what I'm trying to say here, there's so much that I'm like being a little disjointed, and I'm sorry about that.
It's a lot. It's so, listen, that's how I felt when I was reading the book. Like it was just so much. And I was like, you're like eating it up. So I can understand the overflow. I didn't even mean to say that, but listen.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like when your hurt is writing your story, what's happening is continued suspicion in your relationships, continued self-doubt, continued self-talk. I could never, for years, Toya, I've been in therapy since I was a child because of the things that I've been through. And because, just like I said, my parents were not treating me from a place of inaction or anything like that. They were very supportive, you know? So I've been in therapy since I was a child, and over and over people talk about self-talk. And I was like, I could give you a definition, but I didn't understand until the pandemic. And I had this aha moment with my therapist where I realized, oh, I am constantly, there is this undercurrent where I am constantly hustling for love. Constantly. I'm imagining, there's this verse in the Bible that says, he who knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it sins. And that is the source of so much shame. And we can elaborate another time on exegeting passages of the Bible.
Man, we could unpack the mess out of that, right?
Let's get Cornell on here. We'll do some unpacking of the institution of Christianity and what ways it harms and what ways it helps. But anyhow, so for me, I just realized, oh, what's happening to me is that I believe I'm bad. I believe that I'm bad. What? And I am constantly trying to prove that I'm not bad. I so badly just don't want to be bad.
Yeah. Wow.
And like, that was like a sit in the Epsom salt bath and have a good cry moment for me of like, okay, so what I'm doing in my life that is causing hurt to the people around me is I'm not advocating for social justice from a place that says, I want my Black brothers and sisters to be healthy and happy and equal. And I do want that. But what I wanted was, please tell me I'm not a racist. Please tell me I'm not bad. Please, wow. I just don't want to be bad. Honestly. Mm-hmm. I hate having to say it out loud, but that is the truth. And that is what happens in a place of unforgiveness. Whatever it is that you're holding on to, the good things that we're trying to do aren't about what we want them to be about. Do you know what I mean? When you're hustling for love, you're trying so hard to earn what you don't have to earn. It robs you of the joy and the connection that you could be having in those same behaviors.
Whoa. Whoa. And that, wow. We could spend so much more time on that. I'm so overwhelmed by that because I know that y'all heard that and it really resonated with you because it hit me. So I know the viewers, I know that listen, Healing Overflow family, let us know if that really hit you like it hit me, because it's that uncovering of this is what I've been living by. This is what has been brewing and sitting in my soul and spirit, and I can be healed and set free from this.
Yeah.
Once I realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what, we're going over a little bit, but that's okay. Stay with us, viewers, because we're not done. Let's give about 5 more minutes. Y'all can hang on. 5 more minutes. Okay. I want to talk about this whole forgiveness improv thing, because forgiveness ain't funny. What you mean? But it's you're like
serious beeswax.
Serious?
That's why for me, Toya, I love improv so much. And we could do a whole show just about this, but I'll just give a nutshell. So first of all, I love the idea of introducing some levity into the situation, because they say laughter is the best medicine. And that's like such a cliche. And I hate that I said it, but like, it's for me, what I realized as someone who is a survivor of sexual trauma, and just am I allowed to say bullshit on your show? the other bullshit in life, because it's not like there's one thing,
Right.
And so, like, as someone who comes from that and then became a social worker and has been steeped in deep evangelical Christianity, which has been good and hurtful, and it's both. It's yes and,
Yeah.
When I found improv, nobody in my family was like, oh, this makes sense. You have a college degree and a license and you had a 401k and you stopped doing that to produce and perform comedy. Good. That's positive. There was not like a lot of,
You didn't have that.
it was, and nobody was like, that makes sense. We can see how this was a logical next step in your career. But for me, it was like, I will never forget that first improv class and being like, oh my God, this is like so new and different and scary, but so familiar in the deepest way. And the reason is that improv, just to be clear on the definition, it's a form of live comedy where everything is made up on the spot. So it's not like Saturday Night Live. And in Pittsburgh, if your audience is mostly in Pittsburgh, the best known comedy venue in that area is called the Improv, but it only does stand up. And that's so confusing. So like improv, it's like the lights go down, they come back up, everything is made up. And the reason why it's so powerful is that in order to do it well, you have to walk in, staying in the present moment in a headspace of curiosity instead of judgment. So for a lot of your viewers who are familiar with our social work world, that probably sounds like mindfulness practice.
I was just going to say that. That's mindfulness. Yeah.
It's mindfulness practice. It's be in this moment with curiosity instead of judgment.
Yeah.
Furthermore, it's about honoring and trusting your scene partner. And earlier I heard you talk about, lots of examples that you gave, but like this idea of when you see someone fail in front of you, it's not a question of like, oh, nobody's perfect. It's like, no, I've seen you be hurtful. I've seen you get it wrong. Not I've seen you get it imperfect. I've seen you get it wrong. And you've seen me get it wrong. I don't know how to be more than that in front of you now. I know what I did. I know what I said. I know who I've been in front of you, and I can't change it. And so improv is like, that's going to happen. We're going to fail in front of each other. Can we believe that we are more than the worst thing about each other? It's about maintaining faith in your scene partner. It's about listening beyond your comfort zone. It's about receiving everything that happens as a gift. And so in the book, I share these core 5 mindful improv skills, because the same exact skills that are helping Colin Mockery and like people on Whose Line Is It Anyway that maybe are better known. Maybe people go see live improv at their local theaters. I hope you do. Please do it. It's wonderful. But I assume people are probably familiar with Whose Line Is It Anyway or something like that on TV. The same skills that they're using to succeed, these are the same exact skills that will help you in your life, And so for me, how improv came about was just like, I took this first class and it just hit me on this level of, this is social work. This is mindfulness practice. This is, like honoring your scene partner, and this idea of like honoring someone else's agency in the process of change. There's just so many parallels. And again, we could talk forever about that. I even wrote out the whole trans theoretical model versus like my forgiveness practice. So I was like, I didn't know what all direction we were going to head. And I was ready to like put my glasses on and like get into it.
Now come on, class. Pull up your
I was ready to get into it. But there are some things that I just wanted to share. A couple of exercises that your viewers can use at home.
I would love that. Yes. Okay, viewers, come on. Let's learn something.
I'm going to take off this shawl, and can I just be real for a moment? Someone might see a bra strap come flying down. I just got back from vacation. All my stuff got all but jumbled in the suitcase. So we're just.
It is what it is.
It's just, it might happen. So I hope no one will feel scandalized.
They're going to be all right.
So firstly, there were so many things I wanted to accomplish in here. It's good to understand that the basis of all of improv is this idea of yes and. And you've heard me talk about that a few times in this process. And in the book, I really get into like what a deeper and more nuanced concept that is for like how you roll through life. But one of the things that I teach whenever I'm teaching improv and in the book is this idea of alignment, which helps you do that. So alignment is, I have faith in me. I have faith in you. I have faith in the process. And so when you do that, you can yes and naturally. You're not going to be arm wrestling whatever just happened back to how it was supposed to go. You're going to be able to roll with that change. You're going to be able to accept, yes, this happened, and I can acknowledge it, and I can say what I need. I can show up. I can honor myself and my scene partner. So one thing that I wanted to teach is this alignment exercise that I use sometimes that I call yes and tapping. And it's similar. Have you heard of EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique?
No.
So this is something lovely to just have in your belt for client work, for students, and for yourself. So there are different acupressure points that you can
Oh, yes, I have then. Right.
Yes.
I guess I didn't remember what it was called. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So it's a very forgiving technique. There's different places that you can tap, and you can do a YouTube search if you want to see like the official, all the places, but I'll just show you how I do it. So you start here, this kind of place between your knuckle here and the palm, and you tap gently. One thing I noticed when I started this practice was sometimes I'm going really hard and it's almost like punishing yourself. Be gentle curiosity in this process, gently tapping. And we start off with just some yes and statements. Yes, I yelled at my kids this morning and I lost my temper and I feel bad about it. And I fully and completely love and accept myself. And so we're going to, whatever your yes and statements are. So the whole deal is we're not erasing anything. We're not pretending like it didn't happen. We're not hiding from the truth. We understand we don't have to be afraid of the truth because we're more than the worst thing about us. So we're yes anding. We start here, some yes and statements about whatever you need to get off your chest, and then come back to that home base of, and I fully and completely love and accept myself. And we go through, I like to do up here.
Viewers, do it with us. Are you doing it with us?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And take good, nice, deep, slow breaths while you're doing it. In through your nose. Out through the mouth. I like to get here on my temple. Always feels really, that was a good release point for me always. I like to get right here.
Yeah.
I like to go here.
This is making me feel like I'm here. I can feel myself in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I like to go right kind of under my collarbone here. And then there's a place just on your rib cage, just kind of below your arm here. It feels really good. And then what I do is I go through whatever my yes and statements are for myself, and I get that leg of that tripod in alignment. I fully and completely love and accept myself. And then I go through like whatever I need to say about someone else. Yes, what they said was hurtful. Yes, it was unprofessional. Yes, it was indicating their need for growth when it comes to racial awareness or understanding, whatever it is. Yes, we are acknowledging that. And he or she is worthy of my love and acceptance. And the thing is, like, it's not going to feel good all the time, but what we are reminding ourselves in this moment is that we too have transgressed. There's not a single one of us that has not been hurtful, not just imperfect, but there's not a single one of us that has not been hurtful, that has not gotten it wrong, Yeah. And so we still deserve love. And when we can find a way to do this, tapping is a great tool. It has helped me a whole lot. There are other tools as well. But what we're doing is creating a space where that person doesn't have to hustle for our love. And when that person doesn't have to hustle for our love, we create an environment that is safe enough for them to really learn in our presence. That person might still be learning somewhere else. This is the whole thing we forget. We don't know what happens between that person and God beyond the God we can name. When it's just them and God at night, we don't know what type of questions they're asking and what truth they're hearing. That doesn't mean it's not happening. You don't plant a seed and start screaming at it because it's not a flower yet. There's a germination process under the soil. The most important work of a flower existing happens before anyone can see a thing, And so This tapping process helps us remember the deep truth. And then the last component, and I know we need to end here pretty soon, but that last component is trusting the process. understanding that just like improv, all of life is improv. It's all being made moment by moment, you know? So trusting that process, that it's okay, that I don't know 11 steps down the road how this thing plays out. It's okay. It is safe to trust the unfolding. That's my home base for that one. It is safe to trust the unfolding. Even though I'm worried about what this means for my career, that someone else got the promotion instead of me, it is safe to trust the unfolding. Even though I'm worried about what I'm hearing in the news, this one's going to make me cry.
Wow.
It is safe to trust the unfolding, you know? So like really just finding that home base. And this process has helped me immeasurably to find that alignment that is that makes it possible to yes and more consistently. And there are other exercises. We can have a conversation again. I can teach you some improv games that are more fun and lighthearted.
Listen, if you are willing to come back, I would love that. And we can
make
do
this a daily thing. We'll just have on here.
Look, because I'm feeling some freedom. And we
Good.
let's keep sharing that. Listen, yeah. I hate to end it, but you'll come back. You'll come back.
Yes.
Wonderful. Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy family. I hope you really got something so significant. I know you did. I remember, and I'm going to end with this. I remember having a client who lost a loved one to homicide, and she really went through so much, you know, in the healing process of forgiving herself, and then eventually finding that freedom and that peace through forgiveness internally. And I remember doing mindfulness techniques with her, and she said, "I ain't doing that white people stuff." And it made me laugh so hard. I said, listen, Black folk breathe too. Black folk can be mindful and feel inside their body. I know some of y'all thought, what is this tapping stuff? What is this? When I learned the process, I'm Black, I'm a therapist, thought, this is bizarre. But then when I started doing it, I said, this is working. I feel more in touch with myself. I feel like I'm here, I'm grounded. I'm not all over here doing this and that. So y'all, it ain't just for white folk. This is for Black folk, for us too. We are all healing together, and these tools do work. And that whole mindfulness and that the first part really was forgiveness and being in the moment for myself. Then I can take care of what's happening around me. I love that tool. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I hope y'all did it too. Y'all put your hands together again for Andrea, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, baby, we got so much more to talk about, and we don't rush nothing. So thanks for hanging out with us. Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy family. Again, go on the Facebook page, like it, share it, continue to heal so that your healing overflows onto everyone else. Andrea, you're a blessing to us all. Keep on doing what you're doing. Pick up the book, y'all. It is worth the money. It's not very expensive at all. It was an easy read. Listen, I read it over probably a week tops. I dug into that sucker. I got stuff writing all over the place, bended pages, the whole 9 yards. It's worth every page. It was just such a journey, and it's full of, you know, literature and backing. It's just not a bunch of frou-frou stuff. It has lots of solid legs and foundation. So pick it up. The funny thing about forgiveness, what every leader needs to know about improv culture in the world's least favorite F word. Now I hope it's a favorite F word after today. You know, I got room for it now. I was side-eyeing forgiveness. Now I got room for it. So be healed and be blessed, y'all. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you so much.